Hi, Jess.
Hey.
Welcome to the Typecast. Can you just do like a quick intro, who you are, what are you doing here? Where are you calling in from?
Hey,
It's
everyone.
WGKX Radio.
Longtime fan, first time caller. My name is Jess Goldsmith. I am an illustrator, lettering artist, and curator in Brooklyn, New York. I was born and raised here. I also run Women of Type. If you are familiar with Good Type, you're probably familiar with Women of Type. And if you're not,
Oh, yeah.
give me a follow.
Google it.
Get on
Yeah,
that.
Google it.
Yeah.
Google
Have we
it on
talked about-
Instagram.
Have we talked about how my dad is from Brooklyn, and so we're probably related?
You said Bensonhurst, right?
Sheepshead Bay.
Close enough.
This is what happens when you're Jewish and live in New
Yeah.
York. It's like we're probably related somehow.
Do you, not to get too far back, but like, do you
Yeah.
know where his grandparents are from?
Like Poland, Russia,
Okay.
somewhere in there.
I have
Somewhere
some of
over
that. I have Romanian.
yeah. We're related.
Czech.
Sold.
Yeah.
Glad we figured that out. Okay, well, we're so excited you're here because we are huge fans of Women of Type. We're huge fans of you and all the work
We're
that you
huge
do.
fans of women. We're huge fans of type.
Put those together. Count us in.
Man,
Big
we're
fan.
living.
We're living our best life. Okay, so I want to start out because your handle is Chick of All Trades.
Yeah.
And you do a lot of experimenting. And so I feel like that's something Katie and I have not been doing lately. And it's not because we don't want to, but I think a lot of artists at this high level where, let's say you're an expert at your craft, they stop making room for like play. How have you carved out and how do you like stay inspired to try new things? And I'm not saying Katie and I don't do it. Like we don't do it because we are focused on other things, but
So
I love
funny.
that about you.
Yeah. Firstly, it's so funny that you say that because that's an insecurity of mine, that I'm not super niche down. You hear all these people saying niche down, niche down. It's not that I disagree. It's that I have ADHD. So I like find things that I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Let me try that. Let me try that. And like, I'll try it for a while and I'll either love it and keep doing it, or I'm really not into it and I'll stop.
This could go a lot of ways because I also have ADHD and it manifests in a little bit of a different way. Katie, buckle up.
How does
I'm
yours
buckled.
go?
I've been buckled this whole time.
She always buckles. Sometimes mine is like tunnel vision. And I also cannot focus on something that I'm like frustrated or not great at or just like not that excited about. So if I'm going to try something, I better be like gung ho, like want to learn everything about it.
So that's why I've never done a math problem in my entire life. Because I'm not good at math. I don't want to be good at math. I don't want to learn it. I think with a lot of like creative people and a lot of people that are artistic, like some of the skills will kind of come up naturally through like jobs that you have, if you're just doodling and things like that. But like something gets way too frustrating, I'm probably going to be like, I can't do this. I was learning Blender and I was doing really well. And then my computer started getting slow and I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm done.
I can't.
I'm over it. I'm not doing it anymore.
Can't do it.
Honestly, sometimes I wish that I did that because I will sit there and be hating
have to
my
finish
life
it.
and hating everything, and I still do it, and then I walk away feeling like at the end of it feeling super burnt out and like I'll never come back to it again. But if you quit in the heat of the moment and you're like just get away from it and then you're able to come back at some point, I guess that's the
To
thing.
be
If you're
clear,
able
I
to-
feel guilty about it all the time. I'm like, oh my God, I just
Yeah,
like
that's
sit
the
to my
worst.
desktop that I haven't touched in months. And I'm like, that was a really expensive experiment.
Yeah.
Maybe I still have a warranty. I don't know.
I think I've shared this on the podcast before, but I have this system that I use for figuring out what I want to focus on. And I feel like people have probably seen that graph. I'm using visuals. I realize this is mostly audio, but they have this graph where it's like, is it urgent or important? Is it non-urgent or not important? And so that's one of the systems I use. But the other one I use is an ABC list. And so like A is the things I have to do today. They're really important. My B list is like things that are going to come up maybe next week or like they're in the like pipeline. And then my C list is like the 8 million ideas I've had for my life that I don't know if they'll fit into
Like
my
a running list.
Yes, but I write them down. And then what I'll do is like every so often I'll come back to them and be like, does that actually make sense? Like a good example is like Katie and I have talked about merch for Good Type. And we have a couple sweatshirts and things. And I'm like, we need to go gung ho, get merch done. And then like it stays kind of on the C list where we're like, we'll come back to this and we'll see if it feels like a good fit, but it's not urgent and it's not important. It's just something that could be fun if we find like the headspace for it.
Yeah.
And I find that helps me because sometimes I'll come back to it and it'll be like, design sneaker collection. I'll be like, what the hell was I thinking?
That's been on my list too. It's interesting.
Yeah. But like that makes
Seems-
absolutely no sense for me.
It seems like it soothes your ADHD soul to check off lots of things throughout the day. So just pick the things that are like small enough to get done so that there's like, you
Yeah,
have
like,
a good something
go to the
show
bathroom.
for the day.
Done.
Go to the bathroom. Check.
I feel like just knowing you like that is like
makes
important for
sense.
you to do throughout the day.
It's why I
Have a
get
list
up in the
of what
morning.
you've done. Because
To do the checklist.
it is
You could put
annoying
that
to
on
just,
the
like,
checklist.
to just like work on
Wake up.
one thing all day and you don't even
Can't do
finish it. I do a lot of stuff like that and then I get really frustrated.
Yeah. And I also have to break my tasks down. Like I cannot put work on book and have it be on my to-do list for 18 days.
I need a breakdown of what that
Mhm.
even means. Write down an
Mhm.
outline. That's why I get so overwhelmed because my steps have steps to them and sometimes those have steps. And I'm like,
My steps have
this
steps have
is
steps.
like all I needed to do was write one email, but now this is turning into a 3-day task.
What do you
So
use
the-
to organize your steps and your steps a step?
I just have to write it down like on a
Pen and
paper. It doesn't
paper.
have, sometimes I'll just take like a sheet of printer paper and like write it all down. It doesn't need to be
Yeah.
in a specific notebook or anything like that. I just have to be able to like physically write it down.
We've been
Do
using
you-
Notion, especially because we're like 2 people and we also have
Yeah,
like, our
you have
social
to, like,
media
update.
managers. That's something we've like, our business has really evolved in that way where we tried a bunch of different systems. We had like Trello, and before that, I can't even remember what we were doing, but we were existing
hate Trello.
somehow, like emailing each other.
I mean,
don't know.
probably
We moved
Google.
from Trello because it just
Oof.
wasn't like robust enough. For
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Monday.
Notion,
that.
please sponsor us.
Yes,
Just
we've
had to
been
put that in
calling
there.
you. We've been
Potentially
calling
sponsored by
your 1-800
Notion.
number.
Pick
No,
up the
I
phone.
don't think they have one.
Anyway,
But if you
that's-
did, we would
that-
call it.
that has been really helpful. And it's allowed us to like delegate to each other or like get things for review. And then for me, it works really well because it's like if I've assigned it to Katie, but it's still open, like I know that I don't have an action to take on it. So do you,
Right.
I know you're running this ship by yourself. Do you have people that you delegate to, or is that really tough to do?
Yeah. So I'm working with somebody to help me create content. She's amazing. The problem is she needs things of me filmed. So that means I have to film myself doing things, but she's been incredible. So she's been super helpful with that. And I had an intern for a while scheduling some posts, and she's in school and super busy. So she's not always available, but
That's
that's
such a
it. Otherwise,
growing
it's just
pain.
me.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
amazing, first of all, but it's such a growing pain because we've been dealing with this for sure is the amount of effort it takes to onboard someone,
Mhm.
especially if it's someone that's like outside your skill set. Like if we see this,
I don't
piece of our
even know how to
business that-
onboard.
Right. I don't even know what you need to know.
Like,
Like I don't know what's
yeah.
broken. I just need you to come fix it.
Exactly. I would
Yeah.
love it if I can just have someone be like, here's what you need to do, and I'm going to do it, and this is how much it's going to cost. And I'm like, cool, I trust you because I have no idea what to do with this.
Well, it's
Yeah.
more rare to find people that can do that than I realized. At least for
Yeah.
us, it has been. Like, I don't know, thinking that we would just be able to pop people in, pop people out for whatever, but we found there's like a lot
Yeah.
more that we need to do to set them up for success. And that's not something that we didn't come from like a background in business. We didn't come from big companies where we like watched these things
Same.
happen or like saw any processes. So we're just having to learn from complete scratch that like, oh, if we just pop someone into our business, they're confused and feel unsupported, and we're setting them up for lots of confusion. And what do we need to do, and how can we brainstorm to like do a better job at this?
You know what I forgot about for like a good 3 years? Business books. For like 6 or 7
Didn't
years.
you write one?
Yeah. Okay, so for like
What?
6 or 7 years, I was reading every business book I could find, every marketing book, every business book, and that's how I got started. And then for like 3 years after I wrote my business book, I was like, I need a break from the business books, and I decided to only read smut from here on out.
Yes.
So then recently I picked up like 3 books. I've done audiobooks. You know, they've been in like my cart as like things that have been recommended to me. And I forgot how mind-blowing the concepts are. And they're concepts that like stand the test of time. They're like about psychology, how we talk about sales or how we talk about growth or how your communication with other people. And I'm like, oh, right. These things are great. I should read more of these.
Jess, like, or something you're reading now?
Similar to lIana, it's not smut, but it's just like mysteries and thrillers that I typically listen to, audiobooks. But when I was younger and I had, nice, that's cool. I read this book called The Slight Edge like a million years ago. And that changed a lot of my perspective, like not just in business, but also in life. I forgot who wrote it, but you just
We'll put it in
Google
the show notes.
Yeah, The Slight Edge, it'll come up. And it's really like, it doesn't tell you anything that you don't know. That's what's also really interesting that I find with these self-help books, whether that's self-help in business and your life, your own psyche, whatever. Like, it's not information that I don't already know, but it's putting it in a perspective that I've never visualized it in.
It just sticks.
Totally. That's so funny that you say that because I know my cat's up here.
I was like, what's happening?
Hang out. I know I've got to kick him out because he's going to draw my dog and it's going to be a whole thing. That's really interesting that you say that because whenever I'm reading a book and I'm really into it, or Alana's reading a book and she's really into it about business concepts or self-help or whatever it is, and we try to explain it to the other person, we end up saying the most basic sentence. We're like, guess what I figured out today?
You sell things, you can make money.
You should have an email list. And the other person's like, yeah.
Are you specifically talking about
Are
me
you
yesterday?
fucking kidding me?
Yes,
you should have an email
I
list.
am referring to you yesterday, but I've done the same thing to you multiple times. I was like, I'm going to have to read this for myself, Alana, because I know a lot of the context and the lead up is really important to get you in the headspace and like lead you through the importance of the idea. But it is really funny when you try to communicate it to somebody else without them hearing the full context, because it is simple concepts that we do know. We're just not necessarily practicing.
You guys consider getting a website? Like the most basic,
No, it's so true.
Have you
like,
thought about it?
Thought about it before,
concepts that we like maybe knew, but then they just stick because of the way they're presented. And it's just goes to show, like, we were also having this conversation with our social media manager who was like, hey, this concept didn't really stick. It didn't get a lot of traction. Is it okay if I try it in a reel instead of doing it as a carousel? And I was like, hell yeah. Like, take the same exact stuff and see if it hits a different way. And like, you see this on TikTok all the time where someone posts the exact same video and it's just like the timing and it's the way that the caption was, or maybe it's the right hashtag or whatever. And it's like, I think especially artists, and you probably see this a lot too, is they think that they have to share it once and then it's like one and done, and then they're like, that's the lifespan, and we're like,
everybody's seen it now.
I forget.
Literally no one has seen it.
I'm like embarrassed to post something twice, and I'm like, oh my god, everyone's gonna know. What are they gonna know? I don't know. They're all gonna find out.
Like that sound bite from TikTok.
Nobody's gonna know.
Nobody's gonna know.
Nobody's gonna know. They actually aren't gonna know. Like, literally nobody cares. Nobody's tracking when you posted it. And also, I actually think it builds consistency. Like, I've seen people post the same artwork in 8 different ways. And this is like something I would recommend doing is like, so first share it as a still photo, then share it as a mock-up, then share it as like a transition where it's like sketch to final. There are unlimited ways you could share the same art. And when you're sharing it, but like from a little bit of a different angle, it helps people see your style. People are like, oh, right.
I like
do
to
the
do
stuff
like
with the mushrooms or whatever.
I like to do close-ups of my favorite details of pieces. Or if it's just like, I really love the shading on this one particular letter, let's just zoom in on that. But I would like to get better about posting work more than one.
Okay, so how are you balancing? You have this amazing passion project, Women of Type. You wrote a book. You also have your personal work where you're taking clients and doing all sorts of things there. How are you drawing the line between the two? How do you balance both of them?
How are you a chick of all trades?
Yeah.
I don't know. So like,
skip.
Well,
I skipped this one.
The next question. No, so like in terms of business wise, it's easy to draw the line because if I'm creating something and it's for a client, that's me, that's Jess, that's chick of all trade. And then when I come in with like, hey, I'm putting out a book and it's a collection of things, not necessarily created by me, but a curation of other people's work, like that's pretty easy to draw the line with. What I put into my business financially that I'm like, is this women of type? Is this chick of all trade? Is this both? Is it neither? Like that gets really confusing for me. And I think that's more of just like going to take time for me to understand my own business on like two separate levels rather than like it goes in this bucket or that bucket. Sometimes it is a little blurred because they're so connected. I mean, that's the long and short of it.
I think Katie and I don't want to speak for Katie, but I'm going to guess this is how you feel too. I think we both kind of gave up on our personal pages because we're so excited about good type. But I think the thing that you've done so well that I would like to take a note from is I guess we've kind of struggled to show up and humanize good type because a lot of people for so long have just thought of it as this like online safe space for artists. And there's actually two awesome ladies behind it. And it's a really big crowd. And to like be vulnerable and show up and be ourselves on there feels a little bit daunting. And so it's something we've continuously hoped to get better at. And I think you've done such a great job of like identifying yourself and who you are and then letting that trickle over to women of type. And I think it's pretty beautiful how that's worked.
Thank you, because that is also something that I don't feel like I'm great at and I'm not super comfortable with it. But I just decided to kind of like cannonball in and close my eyes and hold my breath. And it's just like, I don't want to spend too much time like editing things. I don't enjoy the content creation process at all. I don't enjoy it. I don't like doing it. I wish it was something that I didn't have to do. So I'm just like, I try very hard to just separate myself from it completely, where it's like, I'll have friends like watch me film a video like, hey guys, it's Jess. And they're like, oh fuck. Like, who is that? But yeah,
we lost you for the. Can you repeat what you said? You don't enjoy the creation process.
I do not enjoy the content creation process at all. I hate it. I wish I did not have to do any aspect of it. So yeah, I try to just kind of like dissociate from it a little bit. I'm
definitely more in that realm. And lIana is much more. Sometimes I can't tell if it's a love-hate relationship, if it's love, if it's hate. I think it's a little bit of both for you. But you at least have some love for it sometimes.
I'm comfortable doing it. I have like, I don't want to show my kids online and like, I don't want to be sucked into all of it. Like I know
Show us your kids.
Yeah. I'll show you my kids anytime.
I love your kids. They're so cute.
Yeah, they're pretty cute. So I have like kind of boundaries and I also like am aware that like, especially from running a large platform, like I'm aware that it's curated, but also like our community judges a book by its cover. Like that's like literally the nature of who we're talking to. And so I also feel like that's not where I want my voice to be loudest necessarily. And so I am over
harsh on there.
Yeah, people can be harsh. And it's
when we have shown our faces or like when you have done some stuff. What did somebody say that one time? Like, it's gone downhill.
That doesn't really bother me.
No, that one made me laugh. But
yeah, that made me laugh. But someone was like, I thought this was run by a man. And we were like, no, dude, never was.
Never.
Yeah. And then on TikTok, I posted like artwork I licensed. And I will say like imposter syndrome shows up for me a lot because my work is very cute and cheesy. And a lot of the work we want to share, like the caliber of things we curate on our feed is like high level, really beautiful work. And so I'm often like, my work's not as good. But I also know that the things I want to talk about apply to the people who are making this amazing work that I'm in awe of. And so I posted something on TikTok the other day and someone was like, this art is so cheesy. And I was like, to our social media manager,
I'm eye rolling for the people that can't see me right now. I just eye roll because first of all, like, there's a time and place for all different design too. Like you can have cheesy design quoting, like that works really, really excellently on certain products. And then you have like this high level mathematical design that wouldn't make any sense. And if I saw that on a certain product, I'd be like, what the fuck is this?
The stuff you see in Target and on mass market shelves is a little bit cheesy. And you know what?
It's just haters because you're getting paid.
Yeah. So someone responded and was like, it is cheesy, but that's what sells. And the person was like, yeah, I guess you probably know what sells. And I was like, it's true. Like, I will admit it's cheesy and it's great. It makes me happy. Like, it's cheerful. It's cheesy and cheerful. And so I think that imposter syndrome comes up too, but also it's daunting to think like, we have a million people following us, or you have like, what do I want to say to them? And like,
are people nice to you on social media?
For the most part, yeah. But like, I'm very liberal with the block button. If somebody's mean to me once, I'm like, you know what? I'm not even arguing with you. I'm not explaining myself to you. If they have a question that's valid and they are curious about something, but if someone's just coming in hot with insults, I don't care. I don't have time for it. I don't have the headspace or emotional space
Wow.
to like deal with a
Yes.
stranger on the internet. So like, don't be mean to me or I'll block you.
Amen.
Get
Yeah.
it.
Amen.
Get it, girl.
Can we get a hallelujah? I love that for you. And you got to navigate that stuff. And I think you've done a nice job of, like I said, like trickling it over to women of type while still making sure like it's very clear that this is an open, safe space for all women. You've done a great job with that. I love it.
Thanks.
How do you manage the curation? Like that takes a lot of time.
Yeah, that takes a lot. I think what takes the most time
Yeah.
than like thinking about, honestly, other than doing my makeup for a reel that I want to look really good in, which I've given up on that for the most part also, but like the curation. So I use Later, and Later, you can sponsor me. I'll allow it. I use Later, and they have a really cool feature where like you can see who's tagged you in posts or who's mentioned you in posts, and you can kind of just like add that
cool.
to your like album, and then you schedule
That's
those
pretty
things.
cool. I did
Yeah.
not know that.
Yeah.
That's pretty nifty. So if you
Mhm.
want to get featured on Good Type, if anyone listening, I mean, if you want to get pictured of Women of Type, just tag you.
Yeah, tag Women of Type, but I think using the hashtag works better. I still, like, once in a while, I'll do some scrolling to find people that don't know Women of Type that might be interested in it, you know, things like that. But for the most part, it's like expanding the community through the community.
Love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think it was this year. Maybe it was 2022 by now. I can't remember. It's all a blur. You
If
came
you're
out with a
talking about
book.
it was January, so we're almost at the anniversary.
Amazing. So tell us everything about the
know.
book, and maybe we can talk a little bit about the book process, because we've all had different experiences.
Totally. Yeah. So I wasn't initially planning on coming out with a book, but I had a lot of people asking me and suggesting it. And I'm sure you guys know, like, both as running Good Type, but also just as like being artists, like, oh, you should make this, you should make that, whatever. But like, I always get these ideas that don't make any sense because they're coming from people that don't understand the industry at all. I was getting it from the community in general, just like people randomly asking me. So I was like, I don't know, I'll consider it. And I had a business coach at the time that I was talking to about it, and she was really pushing me to do it. She's like, I really think you should do this. I think you can do this. I think it would be amazing. And it's obviously something that people want. So I had no idea what I was doing. Once again, I like jumped in head first, closed my eyes, held my breath. And I think if I knew how difficult it was going to be with like curating and onboarding and contracts and all of that, I probably wouldn't have done it. So I'm glad that I had no idea, because now that I have done it,
Sometimes it's good to not have that.
yeah. Sometimes
Ignorance
it's really
is
great
bliss.
to not know it. Yeah, exactly. But now that I've done it, I'm like, oh, I can totally do this again. So it was difficult. It also happened in a really short period of time. I announced that I was going to do a book in August, and the book came out in January. Because it was also like, if I don't do it right now, I'm never doing it.
Yeah, fire was under back. Okay, so you self-published.
Self-published, yeah.
So Katie and I have both self-published projects before. I think also the moving pieces of like accepting artwork, curating that artwork, and just like we've worked with a lot of people before, from like teaching workshops to just like events. And here's the thing, people don't read their emails. I don't know. This is like a PSA. Nobody reads their emails. So there's like a lot of hunting down that you have to do.
You just become a chaser downer of people and a
So
hounder.
I pretty much gave everybody, like, when artists were accepted, I sent out emails and I was like, you have this much time to kind of like fill everything out and send everything to me and blah, blah, blah. And if you don't have it in by this date, like, I can't like push off the deadline because I'm doing this all by myself.
So
For
then
the
how many
most
people
part,
wrote you after?
you know what? It went pretty well for the most part. There were like maybe less than 5 people that were like, shit, I missed the deadline. I'm sorry. But like, I think also for the most part, those people were international, like meaning outside of the US, and they had like time zones. So I'm kind of like,
you mean ladies are on top? They're on top of their shit.
At being on top of it.
They see a deadline and they crush it.
Yeah. When I'm thinking about it, it's like deadline wise, things went pretty smoothly. Like I said, there were just a handful of people that didn't get it in immediately on time. I let it slide just because I want to be able to give people as much opportunity as I can. And
that's the whole point of the project, is to give people an opportunity to get featured.
Exactly.
But it is like you do have a deadline at some point, and people are going to miss it if they're not paying, if they're not reading. So
I just like can't do it.
I think one of the biggest hurdles that people who want to self-publish kind of come up against, and I knew this part was scary for me when I started, was finding a printer and kind of figuring out how to make it into a real physical thing and something that you would be proud of, and that would be quality. So can you maybe talk a little bit to how you approached that, how you found your printer, what that process was like, bringing it from idea to print?
So I worked with like a consultant to help me with this because I was like, I have no idea. I had zero clue about anything. So I
Where
hired
did you
her.
find
She
this
kind of
consultant?
through my business coach, actually.
Oh, cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And
So
she
she
consults on what?
she consults on
exactly?
self-publishing, basically.
Wow.
She was like, hey,
That's
you
so
need to do
I
this,
didn't
this,
even
and
know that
this.
existed.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It was extremely helpful. I will say, like, I don't need her a second time around because she did her job so well the first time.
Yeah. Wow, that's
Yeah.
so cool.
She was great. I did not have the money to like buy stock of these books. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys know
It's
to do that
expensive.
is super, super expensive. I did want to have a book that was like everything that I wished for and wanted and hoped for. So I did that limited edition run and I did it via pre-order. So I was able to take the money from the pre-order and buy those
Yes.
books in order to give to people. It's beautiful. I love it. I'm so, 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 so proud of it. I have it in multiple places in my apartment and I look at it every day. And then for the standard edition, hardcover and softcover, I am using Amazon Print on Demand. It's not my favorite thing to have to do, but it's the most accessible way for me and for a lot of other people because it's available all over the world now.
Yeah, I
Amazing.
bought a bunch of books. I had to get like a run of maybe 800. I have well,
Was that $40 million?
I can't show you right now, but it was a lot of freaking money. I did a pre-sale like you did, so that's how I made enough money for me to be like, okay, I feel safe enough to do this. But now, I mean, obviously, I have a million cabinets filled with leftover books.
Yeah,
and I
didn't have to order that many. Thank God.
400 house.
Ooh.
So it takes up like a good bit of my storage room, but I couldn't have made the book if I wanted it like to have it ready to go, unless I wanted to do the Amazon thing or like print on demand thing. But the way I wanted to like make a reasonable profit, I had to get 800 books. Like,
yeah.
Wow.
And the print on demand has come a long way. So 10 years ago, or maybe it's more than that, I'd started making planners. And it was really hard to find a manufacturer that could do what I wanted. I feel like it's a lot easier now, especially like I know a lot of people use Alibaba and things like that. I don't know the quality of that, but I've heard a lot of people, not for books, but for like other products that are in tote bags and things like that. But that wasn't big when I started doing it. And so I started by working with someone that was like kind of local and they couldn't do exactly what I wanted. So I needed to compromise. And then I ended up finding someone who was actually local. And when I got the proof, I was hysterically crying. And I was like, this cover is not at all what we talked about. It looks terrible.
Okay. I was like crying good or bad. I didn't know.
No. And then they were like not very nice. I mean, I was 22 probably at the time. And I had just spent like $20,000 on inventory for, just like he said, like it was going to take over my whole office. But it was like paying my whole salary for the year.
Right.
I had to unbind every single, because they were spiral. I had to unbind every single book, which is unbinding a spiral is so not fun because it's like
I'd imagine also
uncoiling.
rebinding it is so horrible.
It's not great, but it's like that part's easier because it's like in a machine and you just like press down.
Oh, okay,
and the printer thankfully lent me their binding machine, but I still had to pay in full. Yeah, I know. I still had to pay for it, and it just like was not great. And then I ended up going overseas because it was just like we didn't have the technology here to make what I wanted, and it was fine, but it was just like shipping was like a 3-month process, and like I just like I don't know that I want to put myself through that again. But one of the things that I thought you did so well, I want to add one thing. If you're looking for a manufacturer, like I know that I tried to like just ask people, hey, who do you work with? And I think people can be really protective of who they're working with because it's like they feel like they've poured everything into it. I get it. I think the best way to find a manufacturer, yes, you can ask people you know or like ask them for a coaching session and maybe they'll share that information with you. But I think the best thing you can do is like literally do a Google search and send out 80 emails to different manufacturers asking if they can do what you're looking for. And what's really interesting is that the person I ended up working with overseas, when they started like marketing to me, once I did my initial inquiry, they would send me like pictures of products they had done before, like in sales emails. And I was like, those are all the people that I was trying to figure out who they manufactured with. And now I
That's
can
so
see it so
funny.
clear.
It's like all them.
Yeah. And I was like, I think this will work. But yeah, I think a Google search, like I sent out so many emails to printers just being like, in all different places, hey, are you able to do bookbinding? Hey, are you able to do a hardcover? Or like a notebook printing company and things like that. But what I was going to say that really stood out to me is something you did so well was the PR and like your book tour. Like it felt like you had an event that I like wanted to just drive down to the city for the day for it. But you also like had a lot of touch points for the book, which I felt like was really cool. Can you talk a little bit about that process?
Yeah. So I really have to give a huge shout out to my friend and at the time publicist, Natasha. I hired a publicist for the book. She's a friend of mine, but she was amazing. And she supported me a lot through it because, again, like I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I knew that I wanted to do a book release party, but I, again, like had no idea what that even looked like. Natasha all day. Natasha Dressler PR.
How has it worked out for you financially? Or was that even your goal? Like, it
wasn't my goal.
I want to make this thing and put it into the world and be proud of it.
Yeah. My whole goal was just to not lose money, which I'm not in the red. And I honestly like don't even, other than like logging my finances, I'm not looking at like, oh, this is how much I made on the book. Like, oh, cool, I'll make this. I know that it's not a lot, especially with the print on demand books. Like my margin is so small, but I wasn't trying to become a New York Times bestseller. Like it would be cool if I did. It would be amazing. Yeah. I would love that. I'd love to become a millionaire off of this, but like, that's not really like what the goal is.
Well, it's actually important for people to hear because a lot of times people hear like you made a book and they're like, oh, so you made $1 million and you're famous. What, Alana?
It's so much more accessible now. Like people think of a book deal as like, but you made it happen. You were like, I have an idea. I'm going to make this book.
If you're working with a publisher, it is not always a path to financial magic. It's
financial freedom.
It's definitely not a path to that unless you're like really just top of the bestseller list, like selling. You have to sell a lot of books.
I looked into it. You have to sell a ton. In order to get on the New York Times bestseller, it also has to be books in brick and mortar stores. It can't be online sales.
Interesting.
I know.
Yeah, there's freaking rules. I think it's good to be really honest about like the different paths to putting a book into the world and also the different like end goals that you can have. It doesn't have to be financial. You can just have a passion project you're really excited about and like you want to memorialize it and have it in this thing that's going to last and that people can hold and have and that can be passed down. And that's really special in its own right. And that can be your full motivation and that's great.
I feel like it's so great to hear that you did it out of a pure desire to do something and that you weren't financially driven. Like, I think that's such an important reminder. And I'm so glad to hear that it was.
Thank you.
Pure passion.
I knew I wasn't going to make a lot of money on it or any money at all. Like really going into it, I was like, my goal is to put out a book and not lose money. So it was a success.
Okay. Well, everyone go buy the Women of Type book.
It's available on Amazon.
We'll put a link to it in the show notes. I want to do like a quick rapid fire, unless Katie, do you have any other questions you want to hit on?
Rapid fire her.
Let's do it. What typeface do you always reach for?
I use Filson Pro a lot.
Like it?
Great.
What design trend really grinds your gears?
I don't like the Y2K trend. Makes me feel old. I lived through it. I don't need to live through it again.
What's the Y2K trend?
It's making everything look like the Limited 2.
Oh, I see.
That was my favorite store.
Yeah.
Are you a child of the 80s?
Sparkle pants, my gosh. And then my dad put them in the wash and all the sparkles came off.
Did either of you wear bubblegum pants?
What are bubblegum pants?
Please explain.
I think it was a brand name. I could be wrong, and just like in my head it was called bubblegum, but I had a pair like Katie's. Just those are bubblegum pants. Jess is wearing bubblegum pants. I think it was a brand.
Like patchwork pants. All like a quilt of different jean material.
Had those. Been there, done that. Anyway,
I wore
okay.
them to the 6th grade dance. I picked them out specifically.
You're so cool.
Were they
Yeah.
so
You're so
low
cool.
rise?
I don't know what rise they were. My body was shaped like really weird, so I don't know where they fell on me.
I just
I was
remember
a 6th
lots
grader.
of.
I was coming
Yeah.
into my own. My body was in a weird phase.
We love an awkward phase. I feel like I was in that.
My
Still,
boobs were
I think I
just
still am.
coming in.
Love that. Let's go back to that time. How so uncomfortable. Anyway, how do you like your pizza?
Brooklyn style, obviously. Cheese pizza with
yeah.
broccoli. I have to say it because I was just in Chicago and it's not pizza. Sorry to what are you
No,
are you
it's
looking at me because I said
disgusting.
broccoli?
Broccoli.
It's
I love broccoli.
unusual.
Oh, broccoli's like a
It's
top 5
unusual.
favorite food for me. It's in my top 5 favorite
Just
foods.
like plain.
Sometimes
just
it gets
plain.
a little stinky for me. Sometimes it's got a
Yeah.
little bit of a stank.
I just love broccoli. I can eat it raw. I can eat it cooked. I can eat it grilled.
Ooh, I love garlic butter on a steamed broccoli.
Amazing. It's very good.
My kids used to
She's like
love.
drooling over here. Give me that.
My kids used to love
Stinky
broccoli, and they would call them trees. And then one
Yeah.
time I switched it and gave them uncooked broccoli, and they were like, "This is disgusting!" And now they will
We
never.
just
They won't
watched
eat
the
broccoli.
Office episode where Kevin
Yes.
eats it stem first. And
Yes.
they're
Oh my
like,
God, so
"Why are
funny.
you eating it that way?" And he was like, "This
Yeah.
is a new food for me."
Okay, next question. These are would you rather questions. Would you
Okay.
rather use curls, the typeface curls, for the rest of your life, or lose your thumb?
Just
Curls.
one.
Could it be my
That's
left
not-
thumb?
Yeah.
Because I'm a righty.
Yeah, great.
I don't want to, but like, yeah, it would have to be my
You
thumb
never
because my
want
career would
either
be
one in
over.
Would you rather?
My
Okay.
career would be over
Yeah,
without
that's true.
with
Okay.
curls.
Would you rather have to use only vectors forever, like no raster images, or have all your hair turn your least favorite color? You can't change it. No dyeing.
I'm okay with vector. I would make it work.
Perfect.
Least favorite color, what would you say? You would be most
Okay,
upset.
it's more of like color combinations than one
yeah.
color. But then there's also context. I know I'm getting really technical, but it's like
On your
It's-
head, what 2 colors would you be most upset? Like left side
green
and right
bright
side.
orange. Like a bright
Mm.
green and bright orange is
Yeah.
like not it for me.
It sounds like
Mm-mm.
something Billie Eilish would do.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I
but
think
it would
she
look good
has.
on her.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
no,
would.
she'd pull it off.
Yeah.
For sure. She can pull anything off. Okay. Would you rather have really awful, incurable BO or have a curse where you have to share your full, honest critique out loud anytime you look at a piece of art?
I literally already do
Yes.
the second one. I already do the second one.
You're like, I see bad art. I have to talk about it.
Can I tell you, I forgot which museum it was. Somebody will probably know, and I'm going to get yelled at this also. But they had like this smallish room, and it was like a lot of Matisse's work. And I was just looking at it. I was like, you know what? I don't like this. I like his work in general, I should say.
Yeah.
But like
Were
this,
they like the paper cutout?
yeah. But I
that
was
looked
looking
like
at it, and
a
I was
kid
like,
did it?
you didn't
Yeah.
try? You didn't like. They were,
Sometimes I'm like, that's not fair.
okay,
Like,
if this is a standard to get into the Met, I'm
Right.
good. Like,
I'm gonna
Sign me
bring
up.
out my kid scissors and cut me some construction paper and
There was, you know what? There was an Eric Carle exhibit at our kids museum.
Oh, I love Carl.
Yeah, except for like we all know how amazing Eric Carle works are, but the exhibit was so underwhelming. I was like, really? Like, did you try? Like, you could have
Did you
painted the
try?
walls. You could have done cutouts. Like, it was just like it was terrible. No offense. I do love our museum. Okay, 2 more questions and then we'll wrap up. 2 designers that you're really inspired by right now.
can I like scroll through my Instagram for a second? Because like I have like
Sure.
saved type designers or just like designers or
No, just like
illustrators.
illustrators, artists. It could be any.
Okay, so
It could be Matisse for all we care.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not Matisse. I've been a fan of Kristen Liu Wang's work for a very, very long time. I have one of her prints in my apartment and I love it. Let me see what her Instagram is. I'll find it and we can put it in the show
Yeah,
notes.
you can send it to me. Yeah.
Her all the time. It's like incredible detail. And she does everything by hand, which is wild. We might have to do a little bit of pausing on
you
the
can do one. One is perfect. Okay,
One.
so now the last question. What are 2 non-design related things that you're obsessed with right now? Maybe it's your new headphones, maybe it's your bubblegum pants, maybe it's
yeah.
your Yeti microphone. What is it?
Honestly, it's always my dogs for sure.
Of course, Ruby
And Stanley Tucci. Well, he goes by Stanley, but his government name is Stanley Tucci.
I love when dogs have like a first and last name.
They have their own Instagram.
They do. It's
Delightful.
Ruby and Tucci. Yeah.
I like that you don't like making content for yourself, but you have 2 Instagrams for your dogs. Or is it
Yeah.
just one?
No, it's just one.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's just pictures of them being cute. Like, there's not a lot of
I'm
effort
the
with that,
exact
right?
same.
Like,
I want my dog to become TikTok famous, and
Me
so
too,
far I've
and I-
posted like a couple of videos of him licking my toes, and they didn't do terrible.
you should put that on
They
Feet
didn't do too
Finder.
bad.
Who wants to
Get
see
that
your
shit on Feet
dog
Finder.
licking
A
your
lot of
toes?
people. I was calling them my tootsies.
Listen.
and,
Oh, I would call them our
That's-
Tootsies too.
yeah,
You
it went
have-
pretty well.
You put it on the wrong website.
I
That
know.
needs
Yeah,
to be on
that's
like
your
Foot
problem.
Finder. You need to monetize that. No, wrong platform. Anyway,
That's a real
Okay.
subgenre. It's like not just feet stuff; it's feet stuff with a dog.
You might
so
get
your
arrested.
dogs are. Yeah.
You get arrested.
So your dogs, is that your 2 because there's 2 dogs?
Oh, no. I'm also really into my audiobooks lately. Thrillers, mystery.
I can't
Yeah,
relate
true
there,
crime.
but I
Well,
do
not
relate
really
in
true
the
crime,
audio
but-
book.
I like
Yeah.
a good thriller for sure. Well, we just finished the new Stephen King book, or I feel like it's the new one, the Fairy Tale. It was really good.
Nice. Maybe I'll listen to that.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, wrapping up, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Chick of All Trade and at Women of Type, chickofalltrade.com, womenoftype.com. I'm on TikTok, but like not a whole lot.
And they can find you
We'll-
and
we'll look
Ruby
for
and
your,
Tucci.
dog Tootsie videos.
Dog Tootsie. I think it's Ruby and Tucci. Let me check real quick.
Ruby and
it's-
Tucci. But they could also find you in the streets of New York City. Look for the 2 cute pugs.
Oh, yeah, in Brooklyn. I'm
In
not going to give you a closer location, but if you slide into
Don't.
my DMs
Can
and
we
you
have your
seem like you,
address?
if you seem like you
Just
aren't
drop
going to
it.
hurt me, I might. I mean, I like meeting up with people, but it's the
You have
internet.
to prove
so-
you're not going to hurt her. First.
Yeah.
One of these days, we'll do a good type meetup and a Women of Type meetup in New York City. That would be goals.
Oh,
Awesome. Well, thanks for
Love
coming
it.
on. This was fun. We need to do this again. I loved it. I loved everything about it.
I loved it too. I had a really good
Yes.
time.
All right. All good things.